Jane Trockwar hirna bí me lícort fedan léas má agus ceansa chu agus lán de grá de cuiligwine at Línort in an menahar san Vic agus an Spirit Nave Rust or Journeys Christ agus grádje agus Common Spirit Nave live galéir Gír for Martin Brad agus Falcha Smish Taki Gdi Bauer Cheerna con Gwivla Kira an Imagine Brasha. I wake before Mass we come to pray at the table of the Lord on this Sabbath day. Falcha especially the fresh and quick Mitcher Donacha Tanshaw Neil Quivna Brendan agus the Redden family come to remember Fran and Brian. Those took Mr. Becky con Quivna on a smution and Tafrina Kelura. Adwin did a coutu agus Tisha Brar, a Fakimek and Tramless, Venus Lepriher, Leganiv agus Le Folly, Trim of Horhain, from a work Horhain. At an hour she would have Sherog, and a hangless on a nave of Surgery, Weirmahan, and Sheernach. Ganyena Gilikuto Trokra Oring, Wahi Sher Becky Duna, agus get Rory Shake on the Bahay Shiri Shen. I hear na gentrokera. I creas gentrokera. I hear na gentrokera. Glór the yes na hardeg sa talamh siú candlach the fartse, moramichu, airimichu. Tugamich glór gwich gawmich buikas glatas up the word glóra. A hirna chi arena flahas a year le kuti, a hirna and Vicky's the Christ, a hirna giun je machanahar, toss a hogan paki and down gentrokra orin, toss a hogan paki and down glachtaman with it, toss a tad here yashanahar gentrokra orin, or so honest as too honest cheerna. To one is reward is the Christ, but English the Spirit Navin Lord Je and Tahir. Amen. Agus Queebish. A year the cookty is which haven't got need a house. In our green leg log which made the our creative Quinny earth a torch Aradoon agus Cody Quillerud math dar hook to doon. Shenny me behoget 3 Christ star Jerna. Thank Kedlek agus an soskere newer tema kena kurshis we kanda na sulki urishle the first reading from Sirach and the Gospel. They focus on one of the virtues, that of humility, and the second reading on Darelate chat free the Dulgaji Canuck Zion Kahar and Giebio. Second reading from Hebrews talks about going to Mount Zion, the city of the living God. An Kedlecht.
Slucht as leabhar Sirach. A bhíc na bhíoh éon éirí an áirde ort agus tú am mondach a graithí. An sin na daoine a bhfuil ghlachaigh díló ba cionnach go bhairt. Tá airde a bhfuil tú is saola is mó is ceartach ísliú céime a thuirta tain. An grí sin ba fábhar agat a láthair an tíorna. Mar is móra cócht an tíorna ach fain se glóra ón té atá ísil. Nuair a bhain an tubaiste an té atá mór an hain, ní leis an nandó, mar tá an drochrod fréimhithe an. Tá measag an té atá críanna hanachla, agus is íomhann le duine céilí clúis éireach, sin bríthar dé. An sam sin freigra ná, réite tú áit donna bocht a dhí. Na daoine a bhair an ceart, bíoh réimead orú ó láthair dé. Bech glunder orú agus beidir slán de hahas. Abrigi óran de dhí, molagi a enim, bech glunder orri in a láhad, fragara, réiti tú áid dyn a bocht a dhí. A hen na nílachtaí agus tacan na mantrach. Sinné dí san náit nífa a bhfuil cúnaíad. Tugann dí bailad an té nach bhfuil éonchaíad, tugann sé na prísanní amach le go meach ra orú, fragara, réiti tú áid dyn a bocht a dhí. Gortu an nós neart báistí a dhí. Chutú cí de hir hain nuair a bhí sé imithe a léig. Fuair de séad áit cúnaithe inte. A dhí bhá thug tú riar a gás do locht an gantain freagara réite túáid den na bocht a dhí. An dar réocht, sliocht as leiteach na Havri. A cháde mi cléh, ní hála go bhfuil seh take go dtí rud i céint ar féidir teanghailes, cosú le tinid sí lasa, dorchadas, dóchan nó sterim, agus fóm na haithce agus clór a chur faoi neara den drám ar chola é. Éireacht nach néir faoi focail a bháin eile leo. Ach tá sibh take go dtí crocsaíon agus caithear an dí beo, an Jerusalem neamha go dtí na mílte angel bailithe le chéile mar a bheith ag féile, agus go dtí an náid a bhfuil cruniú na ngasúr i sinne a bhfuil an anam na choscrífas na flachas. Tá sibh take go dtí atá ina bheitheh ar gach a bhfuilán go dtí spirid an íní atá ceart agus atá glánta ó chuile smáil, agus go dtí ísa an té a bhfuil sacrúnú díanta thríd, sin é bríthar dé. Má bhín grá ag duine dom a dean tíarna chuine sé má bhríthar, agus ba grá ag maithe dó agus tucabhaid go dtí é Alleluia.
Everyone who exalts oneself will be humbled, and the one who humbles himself will be exalted. Ground cheerna live. Tan schluchtas an soskil nef at the rare nef Lucas. Urwan la saboda nora huis ag bedig G chak farashinuk moor le ra. Biedere faragu green nora hook chef yara an qui a pshuk and dram before quira na hotch qui is far. Dinne she fashgale gob durche nora onto quira banisha o guna nas season arch is far. Her fatchis come ek quiru fatchik dinne egen to smooth le ra na hu. As go juchi an te hogan quira go queen gwna gwiv a ralat. Tour do archog go. As chin go make ort imicht agus dolgachi arches isla agus tu naraha. Ach nor on to quira che agus see. San arches isla se gui nor juki an te ho quira which ganini shelat a cara gaunis archa an chin beak on or fatcha at was corndidirik atá ag baudlat. Par quil gwna a ardi na hen islo for agus quilla a isli na hen ardo for e. Tuair sé freisin leis an te ho quira go nor bín to a tuairch lón no dinner ná tuair quira gona carja na draharca na the gwilta no corsna sebra. Fatchis gedurfdish quira gwich hen shalags go make the gwich hen rash at. No revealed tour ag tuairch festa tuair quira gona dini bokta gona dini nach willan an shul no tá bachach no dal. As by sonus earth fui nach wishid in an iek a rashlat mar iki a rashlat e nura ardoi nadini a war cart sushkel je. Like spalcherish randonok you're welcome. Agus mar dúirt bé tá Corshis fui an Canada Sulki Urishla knew one of the focuses today is on that virtue. The virtue of humility. We're told in Kedliacht, the greater you are, the more you should behave humbly. And in the Gospel passage, Corshis Fuidini Chakla Kela, Quirafusha, dinner Chak Farashinuk, as we could have gone at Bratnu Gugerer at the meal he was invited to. He picked up a certain tension as he noticed everyone was watching him closely. wondering what he was going to say. And he commented on an observation how people were anxious to get up to the higher seats. And he comes up with that phrase, the one who exalts himself will be humbled, the one who humbles oneself will be exalted. So looking at the word humility, comes from the Latin humilitas, or humus, clay, or the ground, and usually clay that's very nourishing. So the link there, the humble person is one who is grounded, no airs or graces, just as being oneself, and is not overwhelmed or not seeking great accolades or anything of that nature. I happened to meet a young woman yesterday afternoon who was studying philosophy, and I asked her of all she's come across so far in their philosophical sort of wanderings or meanderings, what did she find most interesting. She made one comment about if a group of people were looking at two small sticks, one was smaller than the other, and were asked which is the smallest, if everyone said the one that was bigger was actually smaller, but the person knew in his or her heart that the other one was smaller, they would still be inclined to say the other one is the smaller, just to be accepted by the group. So that type of pressure that's on us to be accepted by others, which perhaps is straying away from that sense of being humble or being oneself. I don't know, there's mention there in the second reading about the coming to Mount Zion, the city of the living God. The old wall around Jerusalem, there are traces of 8 gates, some of them are still open. There's one gate known as the Golden Gates, which is sealed with stone. If you ever saw the film Schindler's List, Schindler, who saved thousands or hundreds of Jewish people during the Second World War time in the concentration camps, there was a lovely scene at the end where he was buried in the cemetery outside the Golden Gates. And in that sense that those who were righteous or deemed righteous, given a place of honour there, to be seen as the first to enter the Golden Gates to the heavens. Some of you may have come across a lovely little story or parable that came out in the 70s, The Hope for the Flowers. I don't know if you ever came across it. It's about caterpillars, and I don't know how you are with caterpillars, but talked about this caterpillar whose name was Stripe, and he had plenty to eat. He was satisfied with himself, but he was looking for something more, and he went out searching, and he saw this caterpillar pillar, and the caterpillar pillar consisted of caterpillars climbing on top of one another and reaching up to the clouds, but it wasn't possible to see what was on top. So he was wondering, there must be something up there that's important. So he started climbing and found himself walking on other caterpillars just to get to the top, to find that something very precious. And to make a long story short, eventually found that what was on top was nothing except caterpillars on the top being thrown down by those who were underneath them. He became disillusioned and found a better way of finding himself. That's just a parable, I suppose, a story about how we sort of oftentimes are looking for something outside of ourselves to give us that sense of satisfaction, be it the designer clothes that we're wearing or whatever. Speaking about clothes, christening again yesterday, and I often mention it about that lovely part of the ceremony where the white garment is put around the child, and it talks about the dignity of the person and that lovely sense that you'd hope that the child, when it becomes more self-conscious and grown up, would have a good sense of themselves, and that they would be respected by others, not because of how much they have or whatever, but by the fact of who they are and what they are. Lovely phrase from the Old Testament. He has told you, O God, what is good, what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. Bain Creagh and Ishmashtal. Shedja Malayan Giovanni and Tarla Kulta, Renavaras Talab, Ilanis, or Ekyagas to Ekya, Agus the Enchirnawan is the Christian Watche, and Terugo and Ahar Salro and Selan, Geo year, Solas Hollis, fear year, or here year. Taking us not yarnos at in substance lesson, Ahar, Street Rillan Ilani, or our son and Kinedanis and our Slana, Harlish, and Nav. Colour like coat and spirit name, and run the Majin Murder, Stockshi and other Dana, Kessler and Krisha, freshen that our son. She posh we punch speed August Atlaki. Dasher in Traslord dinner the scriptor who was Susar now. Ton here Yeshanahar, Chushnahur Friglor, Rahunzo, Cherfios or Maro. He by Chilled and a Richt. Sheds the spirit near Chiernagus Brunton the Baha, Ted Lucian on Narhas on Walk. Though Irugas Glor, Morenish and Narhas Lish Mark is allowed Trina Fahia. If a Catholic Spalda had been maintained Bosch to one, Comanches the Baki. Tamisola Heshen and Maravs le Bahat Tea the Target shot. Amen. Ahar Navish to Nishtan or Nakanicha, 3 star Jirna.
Guian Fabel. Guimuita son our Papa Francis, our Naspet Mihal, Agus Nicheli Lug, Godugiti Munin Agus Gradov, Nahaglash Stura. Valley and Tashkil, I hear in the Aislinn.
Here in the Constitution.
Sandini Titin, Samarin no Snuspedel, no a Tafi Vro, a Gimukti and Hill, Gamashi the Nan, a Munin, a Hurini, Agus in a Rasta, I hear in the Aislinn. Son is Og, Agus Namunturi at a Filla Skolana, Agus Kolashti, Don Skolvli and no, Guimid, Guishit and Shore. And Ahana Achor Grade, I hear in the Aislinn.
I hear in the Constitution.
We meet Erson Sheikhan in our Greek, in our Dali, Agus a foot and downward, Akaharia San Mukran, and Lahar Nahuda, I hear in the Aislinn.
I hear in the Constitution.
We meet Gamemet Flahor in our good, Agus Garainach Mude go Funwar, Lo Shud Ata Eran Gan Hud, I hear in the Aislinn.
I hear in the Constitution.
Dar Munte the Tartli in the Feelinga, Golumri Salasero. I hear in the Aislinn.
I hear in the Constitution. Son an muitir atá slína fearna agus Pager agus Quibn Con Yen of New or son Brendan McDonough, Cush McMore, agus Fran Redden, Limerick, and this Canner, also remembering her husband Brian. Stephen Shiri Turgo Behirna Hirna Aislinn. Ahar Nav Glachlin or Nachanicha 3 Crea Star Jirna. Gwyddi gef rawr ag yn lag gi an tarla cwt o'r snibr sio wemsio agus websio. Amen. Gyduga an tawrt os defi sio do fenacht go fadalyn na hirna. Sga gwiri sio ffal onan an slán o gianan sio sy'n eir mwy fo hwgat 3 Crea Star Jirna. Sga ran Jirna liv. Togi gi wo gri hyn orja. Scamish buichas leis an tír na tí. Is Cartix is cordon gejevin is crias is tarva puichas the gaulat the heroes in Akach here na Aharnefa. Yele cook the hereditary crias star Gierna. Then the Hector and Sailor in the Shetton uncles and then a Nukon and a Fosh Chrissy or Becky. I guess Sherry or Warwick or Rachel Shan Balak and a Bahashiri Duna because a dull Susa the Yaslav though, Kurshadosh and the Flahas, her lehet roan in Mishin. But English na Hanglagus na heart, the Nave Gulair, come which Oman Multikuich or Raw, can start. Here na GS Nef go fearnach is true tubber na Nef the Galair Navy Martian Emperor Jort na Branton Charlotte Truth the Spirit can yet even our gore corpus will the vicar Gierna is a Christ. Dolin Shan Fosh the Yon Hen agus Norvisha who sus can a hist hog Shan Tron. Gaush Buichs lad Brishan Tron agus Hog the Yeshkipel A.R.O. Dlachiki as he illa Asia or say Shama Harp a Harfer ever son. An gwi generation topic ho shan kalish ga she buichs lat risha gus hodi yeshkipul ora dlachiki is all gilashti sha or se sha kalish me quid follow full no him the heri dort free war son gus so sonic in a dana kun matches the backy jenigi isha equal ormson Agus fogel mich run jiwer and credif Should hear in the G. Quiv the donor wash agus a shady Christ. A frolmage which are on the Bahagas Kalish and Clanhas gamage weakest lat Tusker of Hewlet Genevehan or Shassa, at the lawheric phone of which Yeremich Gehulert. Good in Tofile Kela le Cooked and Spirit Neb, Shinata Parchki Gorpagas Deep Will Christ. Token Quivna here in the G. Daglish for them down Nartis the Carthnog E. They quidgeted in our Bapa Princess August and our Nasbuk Mihal. Quivni freshen their winter Hanefur boss. I see the soul has sherry glover, quivnir should the let time yerstina fearna. Spot your rumpuis jockey salasted Laura, gentrocra, orin illa impumijert. Honest commotion of a parchix the bahe hiri, contour wallows at Laura, we quidget and imagine with a marge. The nave aspelagus and levilla around the hulcher even now. Three the walk, he's the Christ. August is 3, Jagus Lesh, Agus Anna, hooked to Gap and Norums, Lord Richie, and Tired of Cooked, Branch the Spirit name, 3 hail the sale. We mish con nahar, we mar one oslan a horduni, Our nahar a tarnav, could they for denim, good agatoria, the end of the horror and dad of when you enter and Arn the rende tool, through the new, August Matana vehicle, Marwan Bishlar Vikuni Fen, Salish Nika, was Searchno Hulk, Amen. Searchno Gakhulk, we jorta here na Tourdun Shia Khan, and on a schemamish the card the roper. Sarah Becky Goni is slán an ila bhúrt agus sin ag súil go harach le teachta slán a chóra Ísa Christ. Here Ísa Christ a dúirte daspel fágam sí a cána gwifta an díom hí a cána a féicar ar becanach ag creidir daglaise. Tú a síachan dígus eintin a chéile frí mar as tela tein tas a warden as a rilíon 3 hail na sail. Agus síachan an chéile liv. Nar gríhead jo grimisnú lag chéile was síachan atrin. Shohe un jesha in te hogan peki and down as men the should for queer and share an here in the few make you come in. Irish and popular slice from mine. Isa Krejim with we law Ram who her gak en knees Bilam who would lack was Jacma anum. Targus but all the hugum lack mis Jacma priest Jehu. I was saying to me hen go humlanat, now they come scarolat quiha. Amen. Jerry Shotton should James Cove round Leash. Her son, Siobhan Winter, Siobhan Stewart, Treforley, Kira Bates, Trusky West, Jimmy Curley, Anna Gart, Treharley, Kathleen Keane, Forbucha, Jerry O'Shaughnessy, Bla Clea, Farkel and Kern, agus Mary Kelly, Bannon-Tubber, Maher, Kevin Kelly in the Forbucha, Suvna Shiri Turgoba here now. Mentioned there in the dialogue about a diocesan collection today at the door for youth faith services, if you can support that, that collection, much appreciated. The church next, just before that, just to mention that after the Shanrelic Barna around Loon, they get a Trish shocked, they couldn't J. And by Benno in the Bath, the Yish and the Mass and Furbo grave will be on Monday, and the blessing of the boats afterwards. I was going to mention that the next weekend the church will be very, very different, especially down the back of the church. It'll be like a museum with many items from times past gracing the back of the church, celebrating our elders. I went on a bit of a ramble in the dialogue thinking about times past, and just mentioned there that I estimated between having to get up for Mass on a weekday morning and going to school, I walked 5.4 kilometres every day. So, and that was just up to 3 o'clock. I'm sure there was a lot of rambling after that as well. Many people have precious memories of times past. I know that lads from the local secondary school from Kinvara, Derry Bryan, cycled every day, about 12 miles, different time. Not saying that now because young people are going back to school this week. It just sort of crossed my mind. Interesting quotation there from a woman who wrote a book, The Cyber Effect, Mary Aiken. She's a Dublin woman. And she talked about we are now entering the third industrial revolution with the whole internet world, how the radical change is happening. I think at the same time that the exhibition will remind us that we are human with legs, we can walk and run, and that we may need to have to go back to some of these customs and times into the future as well, as we keep an eye on our common home, the planet Earth. So it should be very interesting, and it's nice to know the 3 schools members, children will be invited from the 3 schools. Not sure if all classes will be represented, but it'll be an eye-opener. Just a program, you know, of Barna-Furbo Parish, clubs, boys and girls. Soccer Academy will commence back for the new season on Saturday, 3rd of September. And success for the lady golfers who won the Connacht Championship and are into the All-Ireland, and we wish them every good luck. Agus Squeamish. Here na cohin to which the board le Harana Baha, Gunarthi and Biasho, and Gra Unan agus Gwidi Shellin, Shervish, a yen of which in our Gorsna, Shenair, my Bohogat, Street Priest, Ard Cherna, Scrun Cherna live. Gmeni Jela Kukta Shivas, Giguda Shishif, Aharos and Walk, Agus on Spirit Led. Tantaf the Heart, Gijishus Law.